All right, the schedule seems to be shifting quite a bit there in Davos, and we have with us right now Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary. Hope you're enjoying all of the snow over there. We're expecting our own come this weekend. I want to play a little bit of what the president said, Caroline, in the big speech to the World Economic Forum regarding Greenland and how he doesn't believe that this ask is too much. Listen here.
We want a piece of ice for world protection, and they won't give it. We've never asked for anything else, and we could have kept that piece of land, and we didn't. So they have a choice. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember.
Do you think the president convinced any of the European nations to get behind his idea to acquire Greenland?
Well, they certainly should get behind it, John. In moments from now, President Trump will be meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, a man whom President Trump deeply respects, and they'll be discussing this very important topic to the United States of America. And President Trump is right. Greenland is absolutely essential for America's national security in the Arctic region, and President Trump has a realistic mindset when it comes to the acquisition of Greenland. If the United States doesn't get it, soon enough, China or Russia will, and that's not just a threat to the United States, but especially to Europe. So President Trump is not just looking out for America here, he's looking out for NATO too. And he spoke about that here in Switzerland today. He wants Europe to be strong. He wants NATO to be strong. And NATO would not be strong if not for the United States. So this is a simple ask by the President of the United States. Let's negotiate a good deal to ensure the United States can resume with a peaceful acquisition of Greenland. And he'll be talking with the NATO Secretary General about that in just a few minutes.
Hey, Caroline, it's Sandra here. Thanks so much for joining us. We've been watching the president there. He seems to be enjoying his time there in Davos. You know, just to piggyback on the last question there about Greenland, it seems that the markets are sort of bouncing back today because he's ruled out using force to take Greenland. Was that ever on the table, to use military action to take it?
Well, the president always carefully resumes or looks at all options that are on the table for him as commander-in-chief. But today he did rule out military options and said, we're not going to take Greenland by force, but we are absolutely wholeheartedly committed to acquiring Greenland through a peaceful negotiating process. And so that's what's underway now. And I would just point out one more note. President Trump is not the first American president to float this idea. If you go back to President Truman, he also pursued the idea of acquiring Greenland because it is a good idea, again, for the United States and our national security. But I think the reason that a lot of these European leaders are getting a little shaken up about this is because they know President Trump is a man of his word. And when he sees to something, he wants to accomplish that goal, as we've seen throughout the past year. And he's been talking a lot about that today in front of not just world leaders, but some of the world's most respected business leaders about how America is back. America is not to be messed with, and President Trump can certainly be taken seriously on his word. Just ask Venezuela or Iran.
And some of us are old enough to remember the criticism that was leveled at the Secretary of State Seward when he tried to buy Alaska. It was called Seward's Folly. But can you imagine America without Alaska now? I was only kidding about some of us are old enough to remember. So the president is casting this in terms of national security. But there's some other analyses as well. This one from Josh Wolf from Lux Capital. It says this isn't so much about national security in terms of missile defense as it is national security when it comes to rare earth minerals. He said what's actually underway is a supply chain annexation dressed in the costume of territorial ambition. The target is not an island. It is two geological formations in southern Greenland, Kvanefjeld and Tanbreeze, that contain the heavy rare earth elements without which no advanced weapon systems can be built. China controls over 90% of global processing. The United States controls almost none. The purchase of Greenland is not a land deal. It's an attempt to break a chokehold. I was interested to find out that the largest shareholder in the Kvanefjeld mining operation is China, and that China wanted to buy the other one, but apparently the U.S. State Department intervened, and so that sale didn't go through. But is this as much about national security regarding rare earth minerals as it is missile defense at the Golden Dome?
Well, critical minerals have so much to do with America's economic security, and we know that economic security and prosperity is essential to a strong national security. And so I think the president is right to think about Greenland with respect to critical minerals and economic incentives. But of course, his main focus is on ensuring we can acquire this extremely important territory in the Arctic for America's national security and to prevent a future war. Again, if Russia or China were to invade Greenland in the future, the United States would be required to defend our NATO allies, and that's something, of course, the United States would do. And so the president is looking at preventing future conflicts, again, not just for the benefit of the United States, but also for our European allies and friends, many of whom the president has been meeting with today and discussing with. And I know they were all very pleased with his speech. I was in the room, John, and it has rave reviews because the president just tells it like it is. And he came here with his America First vision on full display, talking about how the American economy is booming once again through massive deregulation, an energy boom, the president fulfilling his promise to drill, baby, drill. You look at the tax cuts he signed into law, all of these things coming together to put together a really exceptional American economy. And I think he's really inspiring a lot of leaders in Europe to take that same approach. The Green New Scam energy failed policies of Europe and mass migration are failing these great countries. And so I think the president really struck an inspirational tone with all of them today. But of course, that has yet to be seen if they will act accordingly.
Caroline, we know you're gonna head back to that dinner shortly, and the president is there right now. If you could just sort of give us the headline you believe that President Trump would give from his time there in Davos so far, the conversations he's had, and what he's taken in from these world leaders and CEOs.
I think the president would say, and everyone here would agree, America is back. And the whole world knows it. President Trump is undoubtedly the leader of the free world. He's also the businessman and negotiator in chief. And so there was a very long list of foreign leaders and business leaders who wanted to meet with the president today. And he's been taking part in many of those private meetings behind closed doors in between all of the public remarks you've been hearing. So I'm going to get back downstairs. I know he's going to be meeting with Secretary of NATO, and I'm sure the press will be in the room for that as well.
Can I ask you one more quick question before you have to go? This whole thing is about how to resolve the question of Greenland, and how do you do it? President took invasion off the table. Now it's down to negotiation. Mark Thiessen posited this in a Washington Post editorial yesterday. He said, how to resolve the Greenland standoff. He said, the United States needs Greenland for its national security, but it doesn't need to actually own Greenland. Trump can easily address U.S. security concerns without taking full control of the island. Indeed, the model lies on another island just 90 miles off our shores, the U.S. naval base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. So that would be a lease agreement. I know the president kind of ruled that out this morning, but is there potential for that type of deal to work?
Well, I certainly don't want to be the one to rule out any options for the president and the negotiator in chief, but the president has made it clear he's pretty adamant about the ownership and acquisition of Greenland for full protection for the Golden Dome, which the United States of America is working to build, and also, again, for our national security and our military. So we'll see how these negotiations continue. But I would, again, just point out that to everyone who thinks this is a very ambitious and perhaps crazy idea as it's being spun up in the media, this is something presidents have talked about for a long time. And look at the deals President Trump has been able to broker over the past year. The release of the Israeli hostages, 8 wars solved because of his negotiating skills. Anyone who doubts President Trump clearly has not been paying attention.
All right, Caroline, we really appreciate you joining us live from Davos. Caroline, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. Good to see you.
Hey, it's Will Kane. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Kane podcast for full episodes right now.
আমি থাকি দূর প্রবাসে, আমার বন্ধু থাকে ওই না দেশের, দুঃখে পরাণ যায়, দুঃখে পরাণ জইলা যায় রে, পরাণ যায়, দুঃখে পরাণ জইলা যায় রে। বছর গেল চইলা আমার বন্ধু গেছে আমায় ভুইলারে দুঃখে পরাণ যায় দুঃখে পরাণ জইলা যায় রে পরাণ যায় দুঃখে পরাণ জইলা যায় রে
বন্ধু আমার থাকে দূর প্রবাসে ওরে 5 বছরে একবার আসে রে ভালো লাগে না একা ঘরে ভাল লাগে না রে ভালো লাগে না একা ঘরে ভাল লাগে না রে
সামনের মাসে আসবো রে বাড়ি তুমি কইরো না আড়ি রে বুকটা ফাইটা যায় কষ্টে বুকটা ফাইটা যায় রে ফাইটা যায় কষ্টে বুকটা ফাইটা যায় রে
আর দিও না মিঠা মিঠা আশা আমি বুঝা গেছি তোমার ভাষার বন্ধু দেশে আসার কোনো দরকার নাই রে দেশে আসার কোনো দরকার নাই রে
আমি থাকি দূর প্রবাসে আমার বন্ধু থাকে ওই না দেশের দুঃখে পরাণ যায় দুঃখে পরাণ